Thought I'd seen the last
Egg,
of you.
egg, egg,
Falling again.
egg.
I'm a roof and I need sign. 2 feet under, I'm done. Thought it was the sky. Thought the cracked plaster was night. Chips and paint reflected light upon you. Thought my water weight was fine.
Egg.
Blended in with ice, I'm heavy. Out in the woods in the pouring rain. Our telephones, well they never ring. Our telephones, well they never ring. Is this the worst place you could be? Stuck beneath me, buried deep. Hope this wasn't what you dreamt. Elbows up and trying to breathe. Thought you were the moon, lying sideways like you do. Eyes and craters, small and blue, shining brightly, looking simple and serene. Talking in your sleep, saying goodnight. Out in the woods in the pouring rain. Our telephones, well they never ring. Our telephones, well they never ring. Out in the woods in the pouring rain. Our telephones, well they never ring. Our telephones, well they never ring. I must have fallen on you. 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 Hurricane down, a little wind growing up East Coast. Bare skin sleeping through a hurricane. You'll be a hurricane, Ada, I know. You'll be the hurricane, Ada. So sweet in your mother's arms, fast asleep, little breeze, twinkle in the eye of the storm. For my kin, for Queen Anne, for Mary Ann, on the day you were born, were the blue sky, the halo of sunshine over Haligonia. I know for me and my home, little hurricane, you were the eye of the storm. Hurricane down, you'll be the big wave growing up East Coast. Hurricane down. You'll be the blue sky. Oh, you'll be the bird song falling on my ears the day you were born. You'll be the big news, baby, photograph. Hurricane Adele, you'll be the big wind blowing to California. Adele, you'll be the hurricane, hurricane, hurricane Adele. You'll be the big wind blowing over the ocean. You'll be a hurricane, Ada. Hurricane Adele, little wind blowing up East Coast. Hurricane Adele, you'll be a hurricane. Scared sleeping hurricane Adele, you'll be the big wind someday. Hurricane Adele, you'll be a hurricane. Sad songs and lullabies are singing the world goodnight. Sleep tight, little world. Sirens on Christmas Day. Bad luck is here to stay. I'm watching the world go by, counting out seconds between thunder and lightning. The rain is nature's copper wire. It's wrapped around my feet, and I'm standing in a field, the widest open field.
Hello, everyone. Good evening to you all. It's time for another wonderful little calm stream. Why? I'm back at it again, bitch. Ooh, you know I'm gonna play Metroid, and you know I'm gonna fucking beat that shit. Yeah, I'm so excited. Yay! Yippee yahoo! Yeah, so much for the very calm mood that I was setting. I guess that's not gonna happen anymore. But hello everyone! Hey, hi! Welcome to the stream! Wow! Yippee! We are gonna play Metroid Prime 3 and we're gonna beat it. It is up! I fell asleep halfway through last stream and didn't get around to the VOD. What did I miss? There we go. Ow. Let's see, what did we do last time? Did we get any new power-ups? Yes, we beat one boss. I think. We did something. And then we got a new... I don't think it was a boss, but at some point we acquired a new grapple. Did we do? We did do a boss. It was fucking Omega Ridley. We fought Omega Ridley. That was it. Yes, we dove into the parasite. We started off with the boss fight against Omega Ridley at the start of the game, or the start of the stream. And he's all souped up. He was revived and souped up using the power of Phazon, and then he wasn't really that hard. And then we killed him, and then we got the Omega Grapple or whatever. And then we got some more power cells. That was the whole thing, and by some I mean one. And then we used them. We used all the power cells, and we went into the derelict ship, the Valhalla, and then we got the codes to control Leviathan. And we also learned that there is a sentient planet made of Phazon called Phase, which we already knew because I was scanning a lot of things, you know. And now we're gonna go kill it. We're gonna go kill Samus's evil copycat ex-girlfriend, Dark Samus, and Dark Samus's mom Phase. That's all we're gonna do, and I'm so excited. Yay, yippee yahoo! But before that, the customary me talking about other stuff has to. Yes, I'm sorry. We have to talk about other stuff also. The Zenshit's get any upgrades you want, but otherwise, let's go kill a planet. I don't care about 100%. We're just gonna do it. So things that happened are. I didn't have a stream yesterday. Usually I have a stream on Tuesday, but I didn't have a stream yesterday because I had planned to go on a nice hike with my dad. I picked out a very nice, naturey area in the country and stuff. I was very excited for it. On Sunday, was it Sunday? No, it was Saturday. On Saturday, Sunday was the last time we played Metroid, I think. Oh, what's that? Yes. Yes. On Saturday, I went into the city and got my shit wrecked by mosquitoes. I had a very bad reaction to a lot of mosquito bites. And so I was like, alright, okay, if I'm gonna go hiking, I'm gonna make sure I've got some bug repellent spray, you know, that you can like put on yourself and then bugs don't want to bite you. So I was like, alright, I'm gonna go to the store. And when I do this, I actually mean this because I was on a bike. And then while on my bike, I got injured bad. I accidentally slammed into a wall, so my right leg got like crushed between the bike and the wall, and it was very bad, and it hurts like hell. It's been hurting since, when did it happen? Monday. I can't walk on it good. I can't stand on it good. Even right now, it's hurting. It's got a lot of, you know, scrape wounds on it and stuff. It's not good. It's not a good time, but I'm pretty sure I can stream. I'm probably fine. But yeah, so I didn't go hiking and I didn't get the bug spray either. So that fucking sucks. Other than that, I'm like fine. I don't know if there's anything else of note right now. There's not plenty leg intensive games. Yeah, but I can't fucking work out good, you know? This sucks. Hey gang, welcome to a new GQ stream. First things first, the news, shit sucks. Shit big sucks though, is the thing about it. Metroid is fine because Metroid can carry you. Oh, yes. Anyway, yeah, I don't think there's anything else I need to... I don't think there's anything else that I need to talk about right now. Bam, 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 bam. That's true. We played some more little video games and stuff in the Discord group, including... Ow! Ow, my leg, ow. That was unrelated. I just happened to also hurt my leg while you threw Amy at me. It's not Amy's fault, or your fault for throwing Amy. Don't worry about it. No, but... What was I gonna say? Right, we played a cosplay club, and I made Dr. Yasmin, which is Dr. Eggman, but Yassified. I should have gotten a screenshot of that. Oh well. Anyway, yeah, I don't know. I think that's all that needs to be said, right? Yeah, probably. Alright, so let's do eggs and then get into the game. Also, I am aware that maybe, you know, maybe the stream is we're gonna beat the game a little early because we are like kind of at the finale. I've been told that it's at least more than half an hour. Given my leg injury and how it sort of like hurts constantly, if we beat it much earlier than 3.5 hours, fine with that, you know? I usually don't like to cut the stream off early, but this time I'm kind of like, yeah, no, that'll be okay, then I can sit differently, you know? Where my leg is a little bit more comfortable. So I'm sure y'all understand. But let's do the eggs now. So remember, if you have but one little point, then you can already put your egg on the stack. Let's replace flesh with metal. I want it so bad. Y'all know I want this, you know, I want to be a robot. Anyway. It's time for the eggs! And we're starting with... Green Clunk! Atrum Toa! Ow. Vex Fidel! You just spelled egg wrong. It's not egg. Kirakat! Rootsatera! Dynalope! Aye. Gluckoma, thank you. Ow! Thank you very much for subscribing. Thank you. Mega VT. Ow. Ghost of Christmas Future. Mike Loves a Rabbit. Ribbon Skull. And Glefcomat. Thank you for these starting eggs. Here we go. Ooh. And then also Sippy. Also, yes, the corruption is at 75% now. Oh, Stretchy, I'll do that one in a moment as well. Let me first get this Sonic. Wow! This Sonic sticker. Omega. Alright. I'm gonna approximate him into the middle of the screen so he can help us aim. Because this is the finale. We need all the help we can get. Now for Stretchy Potch Chick. Okay, alright, good. And I also get pet. Actually, in that case, I'm gonna do this real quick.
Egg.
Okay. Come on. Okay. Oh, me mixtape. Here's your. Ooh. Here's your egg also. Thank you. Alright, now we can get into the game. Ba-da-ba-da-bum. Okay, it's the last game that I streamed, so maybe it'll just pop up on screen automatically. Why is it compiling shaders all over again? It's only been a few days. Also make sure y'all stay hydrated. I don't know about you guys, but it's still very warm here, so make sure, you know? I mean, make sure in general, but especially if it's very warm, because then you have to stay more hydrated than usual, you know? Okay, I don't think the game is showing up automatically, so I will press the button. Hello? OBS? There we go. I asked the Planet Tourism Board, is the planet infected or clean? It's a good planet, ma'am. I land on the planet, it's infected. I'm playing Splatoon, so I'm hydrating with ink. That's good. I don't know how healthy it is to drink ink though, so perhaps also drink some water or something of the sort. Just to be sure. Time to break into Dark Samus' house and blow it up. It's also her mom, I think. If I'm understanding the story right. In 2 hours, I'm going to be living the American worker experience of having to go into work despite being sick, because functionally, I have no right to call in sick. God! That sucks. Well, I hope you can be entertained for 2 hours here. and then kill your boss. Yes, Pirate Homeworld. Right, so we have the code to control whatever, the Leviathan. To control the Leviathan. And with that we can create a whole wormhole that will take us to Phase, the sentient planet and source of all Phazon. Because all the Phazon is on Phase, you see? Or it starts there anyway. Dark Samus sits in her house. Is her house made out of her, or is she made out of house? She screams, for she does not know. Leviathan has a code, isn't it biological? It's biomechanical. It's like a thing made by the Space Pirates while working together with Dark Samus, I think. So, and Space Pirate stuff is often a fusion of biological and mechanical. Kind of like Bionicle. Let's see if I remember the way to the teleporter into the Leviathan from here without checking. This way? Are the Space Pirates evil Bionicles? Well, there are many beings in Bionicle that are evil, such as the Paraka, yeah. And the Mukuda, so... I mean, I wouldn't say that they are evil Bionicle because that's, again, that's not specific. Like, they're already evil Bionicle. Yo yo, Space Paraka. A reminder that the Space Pirates we see all worship Dark Samus like she's Space Jesus. If they didn't, they would have been executed. That is correct. That is true. We're essentially fighting an offshoot of the regular Space Pirates who are a cult that have killed all the other Space Pirates. Space Pirates should have a rap. What if Mother Brain could beatbox? Well, I mean, they've actually... Speaking of that, first of all, I don't want to think about that. But second of all, they've actually, like, kidnapped one of the synthetic... mechanical brain things that the Space Federation was making, the Galactic Federation. So that's probably going to be Mother Brain. So that's very cool. Since this game takes place between Metroid 2 and Super Metroid, after all. This series. We're fighting a cult of insane space pirates, which, considering the average space pirate, it's impressive how they could be considered insane, and yet they're more effective because they have an actual efficient leader now. All right, here we go. We're in the Leviathan right now. It takes place between Metroid 1 and Metroid 2, I think, because Metroids aren't extinct yet. Oh, right, maybe I always forget.
Samus,
but wait, they already had
control of the
whatever.
Leviathan.
Yep.
Now we'll be able to open a wormhole and warp to phase. It's time to end this.
I know.
Once you rendezvous with the fleet, we'll head straight into the belly of the beast. I look forward to fighting alongside you again, Samus. Godspeed.
Shut up. Wait, oh, I totally thought, okay, I thought that we would just fly the Leviathan into the, this is gross, into the wormhole directly, but I guess not. I hope Jeff gets out alive and forms his own resistance group. I mean, early on we assumed that Jeff was one of the two leaders of the Space Pirates currently. So like I think he's like controlling them alongside Dark Samus. What now?
Take heed, Samus. Once you join the fleet and the wormhole to phase is open, there is no turning back.
Yep.
Please be sure to prepare yourself. We wish you the best of luck.
Thank you. I think I'll be fine. I don't know how much I like voice acting in a Metroid game. Eerie silence is so important to Metroid as a series. No, that's true. I do agree with that. So like I like this game more than Metroid Prime 2, but it does like do stuff like that makes it feel less like a proper Metroid game. Unlike Metroid Prime 1, which is perfect. Oh, what a good game. But I do like this one so far. It's hard to like any game less than Metroid Prime 2. True, that was a real fucking garbage fire. Just a very, very long train wreck. A bit of voice acting sprinkled in can make the silence between even more eerie, but it's a hard balance. That's true, yeah. I think this game does still manage to be quite unnerving at times. The music on this planet, for example, is quite good, and the first time exploring the Valhalla, it's still successful at times. I see a lot of Prime heads like Prime 2, but I wasn't super into it. I hadn't played it yet, and then a lot of people after I beat Metroid Prime 1 were like, "Oh, you're gonna love Metroid Prime 2 because that's my favorite in the series," and then as I was playing it and not enjoying it, I was like, I'm sorry guys, I'm just not seeing it. And by the end of it, I was hating it, and everybody in chat was like, yeah, I don't know why I ever liked this game, which was very cathartic. I hope you got 100% or you won't see the true ending where Samus and Dark Samus make up and also make out. Dang it. We'll just have to look it up on YouTube afterwards. I think Metroid could pull off the Dark Souls vibe of the dialogue makes everything else creepier, but it's hard act to pull off. Yeah, I don't see Metroid doing that at all. It doesn't seem like, I don't know, I don't see that kind of writing in here. When you saw those corpses drained by Metroids that disintegrated, that was cool. Yeah, exactly, you know, there's certainly still moments in this game where they have that good, isolated, creepy vibe that makes Metroid so special. I really want to make everyone here angry by saying Other M is one of my favorite games, but I know that that is a lie. Yeah, I don't think I would believe anyone if they said that. Never. It's like either this is the only video game you've ever played, or you've literally only played worse games somehow. I just don't think it's possible to have Other M be your favorite game when you have like a good enough experience with video games, you know? Ooh, here we go.
Sir, Samus's ship has joined the fleet.
Thank you, Ensign. Leviathan Command, you are clear to fire the portal beam. Once the wormhole is open, order all ships to enter.
No, I'm so sorry, Commander guy, I don't like you. Your like weird gummy face just takes me out of it so much. Wormhole looks cool though. He has bad face. He suffers from bad face. It's a very serious condition. How much do you think this stuff was because Nintendo told Retro to make it more like Halo 3? I think that's like one of the things I said early on is like they were clearly trying to capitalize on things like Halo. His head is also very dumb, yeah. I can't tell these ships apart. Not enough of them look like weird flesh things. This is why Metroid couldn't do the Dark Souls dialogue, because the vibe also relies on Samus's contrast with the dumb Federation. I think that is also true, yeah. If you made the world of Metroid, like the other humans and such, really serious and dark also, then you would lose, like the isolation of being on a planet like this would then feel less serious, because that's just what everything is like now. So the only like kind of hint at the rest of the world being normal, but Samus being on a fucked up place by herself, that's what makes it. Also, oh no! Oh no. I have to go back into my ship and see the level of corruption. I'm doing it. I'm pressing A. Is it not working? Oh. Did it work? I think I just gotta... Ooh! Okay. What is happening? I'm not sure what's... Due to critical levels of internal phazon corruption, the emergency event override has been triggered by the PED suit. All acquired energy tanks have been vented to temporarily prevent total corruption. Hypermode weapons no longer require the extinguishing of an energy tank to use. You are now permanently in hyper mode. Unfortunately, this vent override can no longer be used. Damage, as well as exposure to phase's atmosphere, will continue to raise your phazon level. Your phazon level is shown as a yellow bar at the top of the heads-up display. If your phazon level fills completely, you will die. Okay. That's an interesting little super mode at the end here. Damn. Now we can't see, now we won't be able to see that we have like 99% level corruption. That's a shame. Ah well. But I guess we're gonna go super mode for the end. I gotta say, the planet phase looks pretty cool though. I wonder how we're gonna see that it's sentient. I wonder if it's gonna like actively try to fight us, or if it's gonna talk to us or something. Al? 99% corruption, 99.001 corruption, 99 point. Oh, the missiles are really good now, huh? That sucks, the air hurts you. I feel like you could argue that in most planets the quote-unquote air hurts you. I feel like it's the standard, if anything. I think we have the only good planet. Alright, so that's how we can vent our energy now. This is like Dark Aether, only easier to traverse. Yes, and more fun and interesting, I would argue. Ooh. Oh shit. I can't believe we didn't get like a warm welcome from Dark Samus. We're fine. Okay, there we go. That's words that will cause a war with aliens if I ever hurt, if you hurt them? If you heard those words, it would cause a war with aliens. I hope you didn't. Can I destroy this? I know it's a turn of phrase, I was doing a joke. I can scan this. Cluster of large crystals has grown through the cavern wall. Vulnerable to these, baby! Serena, I'm bad. It's okay, it's okay. I was just doing a jokesy. I was doing a little jokesy Joe. It's okay. Hee hee hee. Screw attack. Screw attack as a weapon is not utilized enough in the Prime games, I gotta say. Like, was there ever like a boss that used it? I don't remember something of that sort. Can I destroy? Ooh. Oh. Egg.
Car battery!
Oof. Polar stars. Thank you very much for egg. Did I miss any? No, I didn't. We'd love to see it. I feel like the screw attack is just put in because if they didn't, then they'd be fired at this point. I don't know. I think it's also just a good traversal weapon, and it lets you do, or like a traversal tool, and lets you do the wall jumps and stuff. I think they implemented it well. because it's kind of awkward to use an FPS. No, yeah, I mean, in a battle it would be usually, but I feel like maybe you could make it work. Like, you have to, like, stun the boss, and then climb up a thing, and then jump across the arena, and as you do so while the boss is stunned, its weak point is, like, right in the middle of your path, so then you hit it. I don't know. I feel like you could have done something with it. Do I... There we go. There we go. Oh. For some reason my Phazon is getting... sick. Ow! Oh god! Okay, I think that thing was just sucking it up and then shooting it back at us? Wait, do it some more. There we go. Oh, sippy. I'll take a sippy, thank you. Thank you. Said health, the enemies are dropping as anti-Phazon units. Why are the Phazon creatures dropping anti-Phazon? Stop asking reasonable questions. I think it is that is how they don't succumb to the Phazon, you see? That's how it works. I've decided. Can I jump that? Nope. I mean, anything that's poisonous would need to be resistant to its own poison, right? That's how they do it. Where do I go? Oh wait, there we go. Ugh, fuck. Fuck you. I didn't even need to kill you, I just felt like it. Where am I? Oh, I'm at that place that I wanted to be at. Good. A secret. A secret. A fucked up camera. A fight. Although it's more of a massacre. Never mind, we're not done. Do I destroy these? I destroy these. And then we get a special hole. Then we just do the same thing again. It is kind of funny that, like... I mean, this is how Metroid works, obviously, usually. You know, you just get dropped in a place and then you're just kind of left to your own devices to figure it out. But this game so far has always been, like, some direction, you know, you're being told, like, this is what you're looking for. It's probably somewhere around here. But now it's just like, go, kill the planet, do it, go. And I'm just sort of making my way through here, killing whatever I can find. Stepping into whatever doors I can find, etc., you know? It's kind of funny to me. Fucking, leave me alone. Come on. Thank you. What kind of a Metroid game would it be without Metroids? The dev after killing of all the Metroids in the second game. That's yeah, every single game they're just like, wait, hold on, shit. We're supposed to have Metroids. Color Queen knows all the Metroid lore from her girlfriend, Samus. All. And the stuff she doesn't know, she'd allowed to make up because her girlfriend is Samus. Yes. I would like to play into space thinking that my girlfriend is Samus. Whoa! Whoa, no! Gross. So were you a creature that lived on the planet, or were you a part of the planet? Maw has been destroyed. Fleshy mass appears to be part of a much larger organism, so that might just be part of the planet itself. You guys aren't very good at this, I gotta say. Nope. Plating protects antenna. Only when the plating is open will the antenna be vulnerable. Oh, you guys are attacking me. I didn't even notice. These Metroids are really shitty. That's, I think, also the like original the original Metroid games, especially like 1 and Super, made the Metroids something like truly formidable and scary and stuff. Because you would only find them near the end of the game. But we've been fighting Metroids all game long, so now they're just a little bit annoying, really. It's kind of funny. Can you guys fuck off? Can I not? I can't, like, do the lock-on anymore. Then, hold on. Oh, alright, that worked, I guess. Damn, you guys are attacking me, I didn't even notice, which is the ultimate insult. Why is this planet so squishy and moist? Because it's a living organism. And it's sentient. Most organisms tend to be quite squishy and moist, especially on the inside. Can y'all just fuck off? What am I supposed to do? Oh, alright, that's just what I was supposed to do. Alright. Is this planet creepy or wet? It's a good planet, man. It's both. See, that's the thing. It's like it's always creepy or wet. But no. Oh my god. Holy shit. Holy shit. This is fucked up. This is scary. Oh my god. I'm so sad I can't scan that thing. That was good, dude. That was really fucking cool. And alarming and such. That was awesome. Yeah, they do a really good job of making this planet very hostile with the constant enemies and shit like that. That was really cool. What is this? Hardened phazon is covering an opening. An explosive blast may be able to shatter it. Okay, easy enough. Okay, clipping through the ceiling. That's okay. Alright. Think we're fine. We keep jumping down. Are we heading to the core or something? Most likely. I mean, we're wanting to kill the planet, so yeah, probably the core. Oh. Speaking of which, this looks like it might be the core. Relatively small planet. Fuck off. Is there a fish in there? Serpentine organ serves as a leviathan womb. Tissue on the side looks like it could be torn off. Gross. Oh, that's not so bad. I thought you were swimming in there, but I guess you're flying? Oops. That's not what I want to do. Okay, being down here is harmful. They're always coming in threes. That's where the leviathans are made? I think so, yeah. Let's see if I can scan the bubby. I can. Morphology, Leviathan infant. A Leviathan in early development. Phazon within its highly unstable. So I don't think you should kill this thing. All of God's creatures are precious. I don't think this is one of God's. This is something else. Something worse. This is Satan. I think we're about to kill Satan. What was the point of that? I don't think God even knows these things exist. Yeah, probably not. God is just as surprised as we are. The sides of the organ have been ripped off. The Leviathan infant within is now vulnerable. Oh. See, because like, God presides over Earth, and this is far from Earth. This something else made this. Am I getting it? Even as a baby, this thing is very strong. I say a baby, that's like a fetus, basically, isn't it? Did I get it? I don't see it anymore. I think I must have gotten it. So... what now? Or maybe it swam to the other side. That must be it. Ow. Guess whose nose is itchy? You have too much health for a tiny little baby. And also swim to the other side again like a sore fucking loser. Ow. Were you there before? Can you see how fucked up Samus is? We can kinda see. Hold on. Bitch. Get a dark corner. You can kind of see. You can see that she's got crazy looking eyes, and she's got like some Scar-esque stuff running across her nose and stuff. Maybe at some point we'll get to see it properly. Can you die? Like, am I doing this right? I don't know if I'm doing this right at this point. Like, it's blinking red when I hit it, so I have to be, well, hitting it, right? And it keeps moving from one side to the other, suggesting that it's trying to get away because it feels hurt and threatened. Ow. Well, okay, I did it. Okay, is it like hot crazy eyes? Hot crazy eyes are dangerous and hot crazy, or just dangerous crazy eyes? I'd say hot dangerous. I mean, they are just sort of like, as you can see, like the irises and pupils and stuff are just like weird colors. And I think the white part is black by the looks of it, which I feel is definitely like kind of a dangerous look, but it's not like monstrous per se, just weird, you know? And also, yeah, it's because you have to manage your phase on levels, enemies spawn infinitely, which is very smart and good. Oh fuck, in we go. Oh, is this a boss room already? I think we might be at the boss. That's a lot faster than I thought it would be. Also, there's technology this deep. Dark Samus? Dark Samus. There she is. But I don't think Dark Samus is gonna be the final boss. Not yet, at least. Let's see if we can get a better boss fight than in the previous game. Morphology Dark Samus, Phazon energy-based entity, disrupted by hyper mode attacks. Target is composed of pure Phazon energy and is highly unstable. Scans indicated that hyper mode attacks are capable of disrupting her, likely a result of hyper mode being energized by Samus's body. Dark Samus is capable of generating echoes of herself. Whoa, like Metroid Prime echoes, holy shit. That's the second game. Of herself to aid her in battle. These units will be used as increased firepower and act as distractions while she replenishes her energy. They should be destroyed immediately. She is capable of absorbing energy from phase to replenish her own. Oh! Thought you were taking a nap. And here come the clones, I assume. Stop. Oh, nice. Dark Samus is capable of creating Metroid Prime 2 echoes, although we wish she wouldn't. It's not very good.
You're stupid!
What? She is kind of stupid. Ooh. Oh, that's cool. Well, I know that this is a real one. At least I think so. Good alert. Whoa, 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 whoa. Oh shit, okay, well now I don't know anymore. Wait. Oops, that's not what I want to do. This too is in fact very Yuri. We love a lovers to enemies to worst enemies arc. Should I be using all my missiles on this? I don't think those two were ever lovers. Well, they were in the context of my streams. We've been over this. Stop healing. Here we go. Did you just laugh? She's a little spinny. Whoa, what you got going on around her? You see that? What is that? You really just changed. You? Oh fuck, you got the heat beam! From Metroid Prime 2! Which makes sense, because that's the Samus that you copied. That was really cool. Can I like, why can I not hit you? Was I shooting the wrong one maybe? Yeah, it seems like I just can't hit you. Maybe I should destroy these things first? I don't know. Okay, well, now I can hit one of you again. I think you're the real one. Looks like I can hit you. I sure can. I love when they rotate like that and then combine and then she does a little twirl. That's how you know she's trans, because she does a little twirl. But also, yeah, sure seems like I can't hurt her when she is not split. I think I should get in the middle or Morphle underneath that move. It is a way better fight than Metroid Prime 2. Incomparable. The boss fight at the end of 2 was very pathetic. It wasn't very fun and it wasn't very interesting. And it was not very climactic and it felt very disrespectful towards that Dark Samus as a threat. Ow. Not that this is the hardest boss fight ever, but it's a lot more interesting. I feel like there are more stakes, you know? Yeah, okay, really can't hurt you during those moments. Ooh, what are you doing now? Missile? Oh god! Oh my god! That's kind of a scary visual, not gonna lie. Like something out of like a horrific hallucination. God! Dark Samus, jeez, don't! Oh! Oh. Oh. Oh my god, it's the brain. It's the brain they stole. Fuck. We got a mother brain fight, kind of. That looks fucking cool. Morphology, Aurora Unit 313. 313. Is that relevant from something? Curious if you'll like this fight. We'll see. Isn't 313 like a Halo thing? Is 313 the studio that makes Halo now? I can't remember. Does anyone know? 343. Oh, right. Okay, that's 343. Still very similar, isn't it? It alludes to the existence of Metroid Prime 4, you see? Yes, of course. Aurora Unit 313. Hedge on its head protects core. Damage core to sever cables. Aurora 313 has somehow been fused with the bioessence of Dark Samus. While combat shields protect most of the unit, a weak spot has been detected at the cable junction. Damaging the unit's core will expose this point, but the core itself is protected by an armored hatch. Tentacle ports can be damaged to initiate stunning cerebral feedback pulses within the target. While incapacitated, the hatch will be unprotected and able to be pulled open. This unit has been heavily mutated by phase-on exposure. It appears to be symbiotically connected to the planet phase as well. Sick. I'm gonna kill it. So visually, this is certainly a really fucking cool looking boss. Oh, hi. Are you spawning like little ones? Can I scan those? Yes, I can. Dark Echo. Ooh. Oh my god, look at the the images. That's really cool. That looks super cool. Mythology Dark Echo. Fesimile created... Fesimile? Facsimile? Facsimile? Is it 1 Fesimile or 2 Facsimile? Or 3 something else? Just want you to open the codex one day and all it says is, it's not looking good, bro. Facsimile. A third thing, okay. Facsimile? Facsimile? I guess I do have the C and the S, but facsimile? Like a fabrication. Okay, I guess I can see that. Facsimile. Okay. Alright. Great, but Dark Samus is susceptible to hyper mode attacks. Okay. Well, you don't even have more information on them, which I guess makes sense. Although they could have used that to give some more information about Dark Samus. Ooh. Oh fuck. Okay, can't hit that. God, it looks so fucked up and scary. It really looks like techno horror. It's a very good look. Oh, hello? Do I do something with those? I don't... You open the codex and it just says like, I'm scared, dude. Okay, yeah, okay, you have to hit the yellow spots then. Got it. Woo! Woo! Okay. Oh! Okay, got that. Oh, there's a little brain inside a big brain inside the mechanical staff. Very cool. Yeah, like you'll be able to see your favorite food or hobbies or what our ideal date would be. It's very important information on Dark Samus. We need to know this so we can reconcile after everything's gone down, you know? I also gotta say, like, the mechanic of like being able to move your cursor around the screen while aiming at a thing, you know, while like staying locked on a thing for aiming, it's so good. I really like it for moments like these where you have like these special weak spot aiming and stuff. I think it's very good. Bubble Codex. What the fuck is that? What the fuck are we? What have you been doing? Why have you brought us here? The Codex is just scared all the time. Oh, these are new. Can I shoot these back? Well, I can shoot them, but not back. Wait! How did I get here? That's what the codex says. Thank you very much for your egg. There we go. And ironically, VFPS did a lot of interesting things with the genre. It's a shame all that was discarded for, at most, sometimes slight gyro controls. Yeah, I think the Wii motion controls really... I know that, you know, motion controls as a whole are kind of regarded as a bit of a joke, but there was some real potential there. There's a lot of very cool uses of it and stuff. And now we have VR, which kind of just does the same thing, but more. When are we gonna get... Actually, yeah, you can play Metroid Prime with VR, I think, but not fully, you know? You don't get to play it with VR motion controls and stuff. Although I guess you could just play it with normal motion controls. Like Wii motion controls. Oh, that was that fast. Oh, but it's because it's not done yet. Because now it's like a giant Metroid. It really is like a giant Metroid. That's cute. It's got the little dinghies on the bottom and stuff. Aurora Unit 313 severed cable has exposed a weak point that is vulnerable to attack. Aurora 313, someone used with advantage. Welcome, it shields protecting this unit. This is... We've read that all. I like how unhinged the music is. Okay, you look like you just stunned yourself somehow. Okay, that's definitely a weak point. There we go. This works. I just kind of try to stay behind you. Oh, this really works. Wait, I'm gonna finish it with a missile. Check it out. Wait, check it out. Wait, check it out. Wait. Wait, check it out. Check it out. Wait. Ow. Oh, hello? Oh my god! Okay. Check it out. Check it out. Check it out. Check it out. Wait, check it out. Oh! Okay. Anyway, check it out. It's the Phazon Roomba! The strongest weapon. First try! Yeah! Oh, we checked that out. Ooh, oh god. Oh shit. Oh, Dark Souls. Ow! I think we got her. I think she's probably dead this time. Oh shit. Oh no. Oh, okay. Hey, that's okay then. Yeah, we're cured. That was a cool final boss, if that was the final boss, but if it was, then it felt a little easy, if I'm gonna be honest.
Sir, we have confirmed unstable energy spikes in multiple locations on the planet. It's a chain reaction. It's accelerating.
Well, this isn't the worst place I've woken up after a date. Or the worst date.
Complete to disengage and prepare to retreat. Activate the
Simmons would say that.
Leviathan's warp field. Get us out of here.
Yeah, what about the Leviathan? Isn't that one also gonna die now? I think I saw this final boss on a worst bosses list at one point. Well, that seems completely unjustified. It's not my favorite, but I thought it was fun. It had a good amount of phases and variety. Oh. Wait, what about Samus? Do we get an escape sequence? I don't think there was anything really wrong with that boss.
We've lost 37% of the fleet. Half of the surviving ships are reporting heavy casualties.
Sir, we've confirmed the wormhole has disappeared. All the Leviathans are gone. The crisis is over.
Yay!
What about
Yippee.
Samus?
Yeah, what about Samus?
Sir, no contact.
Damn it. Samus is just like, I'm just gonna bail so I don't have to talk to the Federation. Wait, what did he smile? Oh, never mind, it's because he saw us coming, I think. I didn't get to do the escape sequence, really? Oh, thank God, we dropped the stupid armor.
Sir, receiving a transmission from Samus's ship.
That's cute. That's cute that that's how they showed a mission complete in this one. It's a little dumb and corny and goofy, but it's kind of cute. Oh my God. Are we seriously gonna get a little montage of all the people we killed? Oh, sure. That was like months ago. Like, I feel like even like in the game, you're like only doing that like for the first half of the game and then you're just doing other stuff. Yeah, Dark Angel, Dark Samus was very cool and good and hot. They really want you to care about these characters, huh? Very odd. Yeah, their designs were cool, but... eh. Cared about killing them. Me too. Wow, we did it! Yeah, even Samus looked uninteresting. Well, that was it. That was the end of the Metroid Prime trilogy. Yeah. Oh! Wow. Samus reminiscing. Man, those guys were losers. Did you... Those understated as fuck. Yeah,
Just
yippee!
normal men.
What?
We're just innocent men.
Oh. I'm the last bounty hunter left in the galaxy. I'm about to make fucking bank! That's a good pose for that, I think. We did it. Well, yeah. I mean, I liked it. I thought the final boss was... I don't know. I feel like if you're gonna hype up a living sentient planet, you better be willing to back it up, you know? Like, I didn't think the final boss was bad. I thought it was fine. It was pretty cool. It had a mother brain, kind of, you know? I feel like it could have been a little longer. Also, look at the Phazon creeping in from the sides of the screen. That's cool. Bill Trin, isn't that the guy who translated Sin and Punishment? Oh my gosh, it is! That's the best thing he's ever done, the only thing he's known for. But yeah, I feel like the final boss was cool, but could have been a little longer. And maybe for the premise of a sentient planet, not quite good enough for that, you know? Certainly not a bad boss, but making it a little bit clear that we're fighting the core of the planet, maybe making the planet itself more hostile towards us, would have been good, you know?
With the death of the planet Phase, Samus Aran's arduous fight against Phazon has ended. However, in the vast regions of space, this victory is just a twinkle of a star, spreading the light of hope through the darkness.
Okay, thank you. The bounty hunters had like 25% Phazon corruption at most. Samus went all the way up to 75 corrupted and still got the job done. She's clearly the best bounty hunter in the galaxy. We knew that. We knew that. You know? That's not a surprise at all. And I would say she went further than 75%. Like, when she got on Phase, her corruption increased even more. So clearly she's even higher than that, you know? But also, yeah, I really speedran this stream. We haven't even been going for 1.5 hours. I really was expecting it to be a little bit longer than that. I feel like if I knew it was going to be this short, I would have just finished it last time. So I'm not sure what I should do now. Cause like I said that I would end the stream early if need be, but I didn't know it was gonna be this early, you know? I didn't know that Phase was just gonna be kind of like a linear set of rooms. I thought it was gonna have like a little bit of exploration still, but no. Metroid Prime Pinball, meh. Maybe I will just end the stream, but still, that's sad. Meh. How are your legs? Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Like, my legs, one of my legs in particular do be hurting quite a bit, so I think I would enjoy just putting some ice on that and stuff. You got legs? I got legs. You got legs? Y'all got legs? Do you have another Metroid in mind for the future? Maybe I'll play Metroid Dread on stream, because I do want to play it. And I'll definitely play Metroid Prime 4 in the off chance that it ever releases. But, you know, let's not get our hopes up. It might... There is a Nintendo Direct tomorrow, which I will not be able to stream because I'm going to be busy at that moment, almost definitely. But who knows? Maybe they'll announce 4 in that one. Probably not. Probably not. But you never know. I feel like this might be a bit of an overcorrection from Prime 2's issues. Instead of being too vague, being too linear. Yeah, absolutely. This game is better than Metroid Prime 2, but it's still no Metroid Prime 1. It's very dumb that they... It's very stupid that they had like Metroid Prime 2, which is fantastic. I mean 1, which is fantastic. And then they fucked up 2 that bad. And then instead of being, okay, we'll just go back to the previous one that everybody liked, they just change it again? You know? It's a very odd choice. I should have had 10% less completion also. Big sad. But it's still better. It's better than 2. But yeah, it's too linear, all the dialogue and stuff, like it's more story heavy, which I don't think works that well. Like I like the story, but I just don't like how it, like, I like the narrative, the idea of the narrative, but not how it's told, you know? Too much dialogue, too many characters. Not a fan. Can we go? Choosing to save now will finish this game of Metroid Prime 3 Corruption. When you select your save slot again, it'll be corrupted. You start a new game. Do you want to save? Yeah, I guess so. So what do you get if you do 100% completion? Is there like another cutscene or something? Because then we can just watch that on YouTube real quick before we end the stream. And again, I do apologize for ending the stream early, but I am injured. I'm sure you'll understand, you know? Sitting here the way that I am now, with my leg not propped up nice with some ice on it, it's not nice. It's not ice, you know? By beating Metroid Prime 3 Corruption, we are going to corrupt your system drives. Congrats! We know you're playing this on a PC. What? But I'm not playing it on a PC. Definitely not. I'm playing it on a very real, legitimate, exclusive version of the Nintendo Wii. Looks like there's a bonus ending. All right, let's go see it. Beep. Metroid Prime 3. True ending? 100% ending, alright. Oh, I saw a playthrough that had 69 parts. That's awesome. So good. Okay, beep. Okay, 100% secret ending. Let's go. So this is what we've already seen. Secret ending where Samus and Dark Samus make out Phazon style. Okay, we've seen all of this. And then Samus is kind of bored. And then Samus gets up. If it's 100% secret, how did it get up there to YouTube? It's actually a hidden video. I'm making it 99% secret by showing it to you guys. There we go. Zero Suit. Controversial opinion, she's hotter with the armor on. Which I don't think is actually controversial. Definitely not among lesbians. It depends on the artist. Oh, that's so true. If they draw her like good and buff, then it's... Oh, okay. Little bit of a teaser. Damn, that's such a shame that they like never made a 4th game to follow up on that. That would have been really cool. I bet they could have made a cool game out of that. Oh well. There's other games. Yeah, missed opportunity, right? Like it would have been really cool to make it like a series of 4, but instead it's just a trilogy, with some spin-offs. So, is that okay? I do gotta ask, like, is that one of the ships of like one of the hunters from Metroid Prime Hunters for DS? Because I didn't stream that one, and I didn't. Did I ever beat it when I was a kid? I don't even remember. I might not have, to be honest. But, you know. So if any of you guys are like, oh, I know that. That's Fucko from Metroid Prime Hunters. He's the best hunter from planet Doodoo. Ha ha ha. That's the full name. Doodoo ha ha ha. Could possibly be one of Silex's ship, but it's not shown in Hunters. I beat it, but I remember near zero about anything. Cool. So we don't know for sure. Well, that's cool. I can't wait for a hypothetical 4th game maybe at some point to follow up on that. Metroid Prime Trilogy is so cool. I wish numbers greater than 3 were real. Man, I wish numbers above 2 were real so that we get Half-Life 3 already. It could be just Silas, Dark Samus, or a secret 3rd person. Dark Samus seemed to just be able to fly through space, I think, so she wouldn't need a ship, but it could be her ship, maybe. Thank you very much, Polar Stars, for saying the exact same thing. This is very good. That was, oh, of course, that was Jeff's ship. Duh. That makes so much sense. Of course it was Jeff's ship. It's our good friend Jeff, who is going to take over the Space Pirates and be even more stronger and more formidable and stuff. Dark Samus was like, that's why I lost. No ship. How could I have been so blind? Now my my evil shadow. Now I will defeat my goody two-shoe shadow. Now I will defeat you. That's exactly what happened. That's what it is. Jeff's out for fucking revenge. Someone gets a dog in Metroid Prime 4. I'm calling it. Metroid Prime 4 is gonna have base building and it's gonna suck. Metroid Prime 4, Jeff the kills you. Ow, my leg. Okay, I'm gonna have to go because my leg is hurting. I'm so sorry that this stream was a little short. I hope it was still fun and enjoyable. And even if it was little, that it was still a good finale to the Metroid Prime Trilogy streams, which was super fun. I'm really glad that I played through all of them on stream, because I'd never played the third one, and I'd never beaten the second one, so this was a really fun journey, even if the second game fucking sucks so much. Yeah, I liked it. At least ended on an alright note. Yeah, imagine if this would also have been like a very shitty ending like Metroid Prime 2. No, I liked this final boss. I thought it was fun. I don't know who would put it on their worst bosses list. That's dumb. Yeah, I've got a new stream slot open now. So that's cool. I wonder what I'll fill that up with. I mean, I'm gonna play Sonic Forces, so maybe that. What else do I have that I want to stream? Let me take a little look-see. Oh, wait, I know. I've got a couple anime games, and I don't know which one I want to stream, so I'm gonna stream all of them a little bit and then let you guys decide. I think that's what I'm gonna do next. I've been wanting to do that. So that's maybe what I'm gonna do next. Maybe Metroid, maybe Sonic. Who knows? We'll find out. But for now, I'm succumbing to my pain, so I'm going to be sending you off to someone else. Oh, wait, first. Oh my gosh, if you like my stream and you want to see more, then exclamation point socials or exclamation point link in chat, and you get a little link to my chat, to my little website with all my link to all my socials and YouTube and everything else you might want and stuff and blah blah blah. My next stream is going to be in 2 days. I think so. I think it's Friday. Yeah. So that'll be Kingdom Hearts. I think that's Kingdom Hearts. Days. So we're getting close to the end of that. So that's fun and exciting. Now, why don't you guys help me think of a raid phrase? I'm thinking something like this. Something like this, perhaps? Something with Metroid Prime 4 Jeff. Perhaps. Maybe just Jeff that kills you, because that's more that's easier to grasp for like people that don't know our in-jokes, you know? So this. Let's do this. Metroid Prime 4 Jeff. Wait, no. Not Jeff is the kills you, just Jeff that kills you. Okay, Metroid Prime 4, Jeff that kills you. That'll be our raid message. That's a fun one. It's like an in-joke for us, but it's enjoyable. It's easy enough to like enjoy on its own for people that don't know our in-jokes. That's a good raid message. Oh, mwah, beautiful, you know? Alright, let's see. We are going to raid. Let me see. Let's go ahead and raid. Man, I don't know.
Car battery!
We're gonna rate Polly. Polly Alphanet is a fellow member of RxD, very nice streamer, playing Kirby's Avalanche, which is fun. So remember to rate phrase, remember that I appreciate you all, remember to have a nice day and stay hydrated, and remember who you are. That's very important. Forget who you are and disappear into the eternal void. Don't stay funky at all. Don't stay fresh or nothing like that. Wallow in misery and such, you know? Anyway, thank you so much for coming. Again, sorry that it's short, but I'm dying and also we beat the game already. So, bye everyone. I really appreciate y'all. Bye. See you guys in 2 days. Bye.